The Hiawatha Woodturning Club is an affiliate club of the American Association of Woodturners. Woodturning can be a dangerous endeavor. We encourage you to seek out training from experienced trainers, like those that can be found at an affiliate club of the American Association of Woodturners.
Okay, how to carpet pleasing form. In my experience at art fairs and everything else, I had a lot of people come into my booth, and I'm sure you've heard them too. Boy, the wood really spoke to you. Well, how many here have heard wood talk? Nobody? Nobody has heard a piece of wood talk. My goodness. Wood doesn't talk. And when people came in and said, boy, they didn't know any different, but boy, the wood really told you what to do. That's not true. Wood didn't tell me anything. It's preparation, determination, practice, and everything else that goes with wood turning that produces a pleasing form. But there's a couple key elements. This is a very basic talk. There's a couple key elements to it. And the first thing you're working with is wood. So you have grain orientation of the piece within the wood, and size, and so on and so forth that leads into this. So this is going back to that orientation bit that I did a couple months ago, whereas you have a log here, and you have a choice of cutting the log in half and having a piece here and a piece here for a base or vessel or whatever, and it will give you an unusual grain on one side. It'll give you a wide grain here because yours leaves and a narrower pattern here. And I think you've seen these vases. So if you do it in a half log, the grain is different as it goes around. You can, like Tom's piece here, where he has this fissure and everything, he didn't want to go through, and I concur with that. He left it thicker so that this would stay. But had he gone, it would have been a hole here. So that's another orientation within the wood. And this is end grain. And this is another piece that's end grain, another vase in the log. That's just a round log end grain orientation. Now, if you want to go with face grain orientation, cut the log in half. The bottom one barks out here. The rim is here. You're going to have a straight line bowl. This one is going to have a natural edge. Because that bark goes around, you're going to have an oval looking bowl. It is an oval. We don't have a natural edge bowl here.
Yeah, down the end there.
Okay, give me a minute. That's oval. That's not round. Oh, it is round. It is round. But that because the log barks up here. Same thing, yeah. Same thing here, a little bit. Barks out here, like so. Okay. If you are into vases or vessels, the face grain orientation is right here. We have the aspen piece. Hand me the aspen piece, Todd. That's that orientation right there. This is the pith side. There's the pith right here, going through the end grain, which is right here, like so. That's the orientation. Go upside, you get a natural edge. Go the other way, you get a natural edge out of it. And then, of course, you can just put any kind of small piece in here, too. Any grain you want. Now, you've got some special circumstances here. So this is end grain, face grain, on the bias. Take a log like so. and you cut it at whatever angle, 30, 15, 20, 45, and you now have a series of pieces that you can make with the center here and here. You've got a natural edge here. Or you can get a full, complete vessel in there, or almost anything else. You could have a little cup shape here and here, and natural edge all the way like so. And you've got both sides of the log to work with. The other consideration is, special consideration, is crotches. And the orientation is right there for the bowl. The crotch figure is in there. If you make the bowl bigger, it will exceed I've drawn it so that it exceeds the edge of the crotch a little bit, and what that will do is make it look like a heart-shaped bowl. And I think many of you have done those. When you're using wood, I'm going to get into this because I was asked to. The concept of uphill and downhill, and a lot of people have trouble grasping it, and it's pretty simple and easy to misconstrue it. But this is a vase in the lathe, and this arrow here is cutting downhill. This arrow here is cutting downhill. Now, for some strange reason, this arrow here, going the other way, is cutting downhill. That's what makes it complicated. But if I can do this. This is the log. These are the growth rings. If I cut this way, I'm entering here, and right there at that growth ring, I'm not going downhill. I'm cutting uphill here. Because this growth ring here is going to break off. This one's going to break off. This one's going to break off. Because you're cutting the wrong way. If you cut this way, you have this growth ring to support this pulpwood in here. It's not pulp, but you know, the growth ring is harder, and it will not tear out. So this is downhill. The grain is going this way. I'm going downhill from here to here. I'm going downhill from here to here. And I'm going downhill from here to here because the grain is like the fingers. If I cut this way, I cut here, then this growth ring is going to support this wood here from not tearing out. Okay? Does that help you? Yeah. Uphill, downhill? It's confusing, but it's necessary to get a good job. There's a few other things you need other than wood. You need tools. You can't do this without tools. You need a lathe, you need gouges, and a parting tool, maybe some boring bars if you want to get to that. You need a grinder for sharpening. You need safety stuff, glasses, and so on and so forth. Prep tools, chainsaw, bandsaw, hatchet, shucks, a sanding system. Everybody sands differently, but who's to say what's right? It's what works for you. That's the important thing. But you need to have some sort of system that you use consistently. Consistency is a big thing in wood turning because if you do it the same way every time, you're going to get more uniformity. And for instance, when you're hollowing out the inside of a bowl, I try to go and make exactly the same pass every time, from the rim all the way to the bottom. I don't do an inch at a time. From the rim all the way to the bottom. The same motion with the body and the tool. The same motion. As you repeat that, it becomes better and better and better the more times you repeat it. And then, of course, you need a finishing system. Again, We could argue all day long about what's the best finishing system. Whatever you use, if it works for you, that's fine by me. If it works, use it, you know. Technique. You cannot do this without technique. Everybody says that we're wood turners. We're not wood turners. How can we be a wood turner? We don't turn wood. We carve wood. The lathe is turning the wood. We are not. And that's important to realize because you're doing it by hand. And it requires technique. 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 But it is carving. You have to know how to. It doesn't make any difference what, if it's like Tom carving ducks or whatever, you're using basically the same chisels as a woodturner's using. He uses small skews, he uses small gouges, different shaped gouges. We do too. It's the same thing. We're carving wood, only the wood is turning.
Gary,
Yeah.
I've been hanging around the art galleries here by necessity the last month or two, and I found that people that they're artists and they're up here above us because we're craftsmen.
Yeah.
I use the term sculpting, and they accept that better.
That's right.
They do, because when I was doing the art fairs, it depended. I would never enter the category of wood. I had always entered as a sculptor.
Yeah, there you go. See,
And it did make a difference.
it,
Did
if you
make
call
a
it
difference.
sculpting to those people, it's something completely different. Now you're an artist.
Yeah. Well, Michelangelo carved marble.
Right. It's not quite enough. He sculpted it.
He carved marble, but
I know what you're
sculptor.
saying. Sure he did.
That's what we are. We're sculptors. That's what we are. You got to get that through your brain, and that takes technique. It also takes sharpening technique because you can't use these tools if they're dull. They're worthless. It's like a saw blade on a circular saw. If it's dull and you want to cut a 2-inch piece of walnut or something, you're going to have a rough time. You're going to be burning. Smoke alarms are going to be going off. You've got to have sharpening technique. The best way I can describe this is when I first started, there was no Wolverine jig. And most everybody was using a 3,500 RPM grinder with, geez, I know one guy that was using 400 wheel, a 400 wheel. And just burning the hell out of the tool steel. Burning the edge, and a burnt edge of steel doesn't last very long at all. It just won't last. You can't burn it. So the first thing I bought was a 1725 grinder, and that's the smartest move I made. Then the Wolverine jig, and I was doing my gouges freehand, turning the right side this way, and then flipping the gouge over with the flute down and doing the left side of the gouge this way. Again, to get the same motion. I didn't want to do this on the right side and this on the left side. I wanted to do it so that this is just the way I did it. Well, when I got the Wolverine, there was no question it was going to be right every time. And best thing I ever bought. So your abilities as a wood turner a lot of times don't keep up with, say, your imagination of what you'd like to make, but you can't because you don't have the knowledge or whatever. It's also a matter of you're only going to be a good wood turner if you have good sharpening technique. You've got to have carving technique, sharpening technique, sanding technique, finishing technique, and use basic methods. Keep it simple, stupid. But that's what makes a good wood turner. Wood technique. Resources. How do you become a good wood turner? I read a lot of books. Videos are the thing to do now. Get those videos, get those books and read them. And you will learn very quickly from other people. Catalogs, same thing. TV and movies. Years ago, Beth and I were in a movie theater watching Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone, somebody else.
Douglas.
Huh?
Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas. And the theater was absolutely stone quiet because they're going through a sex scene that I have never seen ever before. And everybody in the theater was up as, oh my gosh. But in the background, there was a wonderful vase. And I said to Beth, I said, look at that vase. And the whole theater was absolutely dead quiet. And I said, hey, look at that vase. So, I used to steal, well, I didn't steal. Yeah, I did steal. There was a firm I did business with, and they had Architectural Digest out. I used to steal those, because all these houses and everything in Architectural Digest are all furnished. And some of the furnishings are incredible. And some of the vessels that I picked out, you know, boom, snip. What I do, if I see something like that, if I see a picture, I will cut it out. And then I will draw it, sketch it on paper. The cutting out of the picture reinforces what you've seen. And you also are keeping it for down the road. The sketch that you do also reinforces that form in your head, so that when you go to do a piece, you've got that information. You're looking at a piece of wood. What the hell am I going to make out of that? Well, now you've got this information in your head. From TVs, movies, internet, personal sketchbook, all of that is important. How many people use a sketchbook? Yeah, okay. It's important. It really helps when you go to do the piece out on the lathe. Equal in value. Wood, tools, technique, and resources. All equal in value. If you don't have one, if one's lacking behind the other, it's not going to be a pleasing form. What constitutes a form? A form is defined by a number of areas. The first, of course, is the rim or the opening. Now here's a bowl, and this is the rim. If it was a straight bowl, you got a flat, straight rim. You also have a base. Should draw a little flatter there, but you also have a base. So that bowl is defined by a rim and a base. And some bowls, not all, this is a calabash bowl here. A calabash bowl is a Hawaiian bowl, well, Pacific Island bowl, and it has this recurve on it. Flat bottom, real flat bottom, wide, and it just has this recurve on it. And it just happens that the widest part of that is about 2/3, 1/3, which is the golden rule. And at this point here, the widest point of the bowl is the shoulder. So a bowl is defined by the rim, the base, sometimes, not all the time, a shoulder. A vase or a vessel, the opening, the rim, the shoulder, and the base. So you want to try to define, always, if it's in the, if you've got a piece of wood in the lathe like I have that, the top is facing the dead center. You always want to start by removing the wood out here. So the first thing you have to define is the opening. And then you want to maybe pencil in where you think your shoulder is going to be. And we'll go through this. Then define your bottom. And then what you have to do from there is just blend them together. Once you define the three elements of that bowl, or a vase, or a vessel, and it could be a vessel, base, rim, shoulder. Shoulder should be 2/3, 1/3. Sometimes you have a neck, like a vase like that. And when you have a neck on a vase, it's very difficult to figure out where the 2/3 is. Is it 2/3 from here to here, you know, and 1/3? Or is it 2/3 from here to here? And when you have a vessel with a neck or something like I'm going to make today, it's not from here, and it's not from here. It's kind of right around in here. You really have to mess around with that a little bit when you have a neck or something like a different opening on a.
So what's your determining factor, Terry?
It's eye by eye. You want to design. You don't want to take on anything that you don't have the tools to do. You want to stay within the limits of what you have, always. Don't go beyond the ability of your tools. In other words, if you're boring out with a round-nosed scraper, you can do that for a while, but you may have a little trouble down the road. So you should have a boring bar. I use a series of circles. I have metal macrame circles, different sizes. You can make them out of cardboard, Luan, or anything like that. But those circles, I will take a piece of wood and lay a circle over it, and I've said this before, you can make a design within the wood, or you can make a design beyond the wood with just using a circle. There's a burrow. This is end grain. All right, now here's the circle. So this is going to be solid. A hole here, a little hole here, and a little hole here. There's going to be 1, 2, 3 holes in that piece if you use that size ring. If you used a smaller size ring, you don't have any holes at all. And then the golden rule, 2/3. 2/3, 1/3. I don't know what that is. This is what I'm going to make this vase. I have a rather unusual piece of wood, and I'm going to make a natural edge vase, like so, out of that piece of wood that's there. Any questions so far? Yeah? The golden rule came about by, I believe, wasn't it Leonardo DiCaprio that came up with it? Huh? I believe Da Vinci came up with it. 2/3, the golden rule. And mathematically, it's very complicated. I can't explain it to you. Huh? Yeah. Okay, whatever. Any well, the widest part of the vessel should be at 1/3 or 2/3. And then that's the pleasing form. Now this is an upside down form. Right there is 1/3. And this is 2/3. Okay? And if for instance, let's take that calabash bowl. Calabash bowls, by the way, were turned in the islands because they eat poi. And they take it like pita bread, dip it in the bowl, and eat it. Well, you've done that before, and you get this great big glob, and fell right on my lap, you know. You've got to go out that night or whatever. So the ring, with the recurve here, take the poi and scrape off the excess, falls back into the bowl, and you can eat politely. That's why they're called calabash bowls. So they're all over Hawaii. But most of them look like this. And right there at the 1/2 point is where the round is. Well, to them it doesn't care because it's a practical thing. It's in my bowl I eat out of, okay? But technically, if you get it more like that, with the wide part down here, it's a more pleasing vessel.
Okay? All right, let's see if we can shave